I want to talk about United. I've had different stories about how families were treated. How were you treated?
Good and bad, mostly good, you know. The day of the crash, we had so many questions that the folks in the command center said, would you like somebody from United to come out and be with you? And we said, yes. So a very, very nice man and woman came out. And they were with us that day, picked up Anita's car the next day, because we had no idea what parking lot at DIA it was, you know. Did everything they could for us through the funeral and helped us plan the funeral. They had somebody identify the body so we wouldn't have to when it came up from Colorado Springs. And arranged for all of our friends and family to come in on United, got a hotel for them by the airport. So they were very generous, very thoughtful, helped coordinate everything. You know, a funeral's kind of like planning for the wedding you're not going to get. And they helped with all that coordination. And then at the last minute, they had let Anita's roommate stay with us for that week. And we were saying, oh, Anita loved roses, and these flight attendants are coming in, you know, her crew, and lots of people that were close to her, because Anita was very friendly. So a lot, and United accommodated the flight attendants to come. So we were saying, wouldn't it be nice if we gave each of them a red rose and they could place it on the casket or take it with them? And United said, let's order 450 roses, because that's how many the church held. And it was packed, 450 roses. So when we went in to the funeral, the smell of roses, oh, it was wonderful. And then we had a really good relationship also with the administration at United. And they told us that the church was so packed, and they'd given preference to the flight attendants to be close to the front rows, that they went up to the balcony, the administrative people from United, and they said that was actually better, because then they could cry and nobody could see them. They were very, very thoughtful. There was a memorial in New York at LaGuardia, because the flight attendants were all out of New York, all 4 of them. Did you know there was a 4th one?
No.
Bonnie Bachman was jump seating.
She wasn't working that day.
Right. Yeah. She was jump seating.
What was she doing there then?
She was hitching a ride back home, back, you know, to her base. But she flew for United. The others, Lisa and Anita and Monica, were young, and they'd graduated together in the class of December '89 is when they started, you know. But Bonnie was older. She'd worked for another airline, and she had switched to United, and she was just getting a jump seat. So anyway, they had a memorial for the 4 flight attendants. For the flight attendants who couldn't come to the different funerals, to have a memorial, and it was just beautiful. It was really special. And that's where this picture here came from. They had a picture of all 4 of them. And it was really nicely done. And to show you how sane and not emotionally devastated we were, our secondary goal was, oh, we're in New York, we've got to take Loretta to see the Statue of Liberty. Because when she was a little girl, she'd dress up like the Statue of Liberty. So, so a flight attendant went with us and helped us go to the Bronx, you know, and get on the statue and climb up and then rush back and, you know, get on our flight on time. And they gave us Anita's savings from United. She'd been accruing an account, and we took her friends out to dinner with it. You know, this is on Anita. Eat all you want, you know, have some wine. And we had a really nice time. And people were just so sweet and so special to us.
See, now that's a different story than I hear from other family members.
Do you want to hear the bad part now?
Oh,
the ugly part.
Yeah.
You know, I want it to be balanced because there were things that happened that were intentionally good, and there were things that happened that were unintentionally very crass. So I'll tell you about the two, and it took me a long time to figure out that it wasn't intentional. Before the funeral, Art received a letter addressed Art Lucero, next of kin. Anita has voluntarily terminated employment with United and lost all privileges for accruing flight privileges, jump seats, etc., and you are no longer entitled to that. And we're saying, we didn't want any free flights. What are you talking about? And it took me a couple years to figure out that this was an automated response. Whenever anybody's terminated from employment, they don't get to ride free anymore. And it had nothing to do, but the fact that it was addressed to next of kin, I think somebody, a human being, should have caught that or spanked the computer, you know. And then the other thing that was really upsetting, and I know Diane Russell, Monica's mom, freaked out over it, was really, really upset, was we got a letter a couple months after Anita died billing us for her uniform. She hadn't finished paying her uniforms, and that this was due and it needed to be paid. And my response was, you know where you can stick this uniform, you know? It wasn't in real good shape, you know, but so I wrote a letter to the billing department and also to the CEO and said, we're not going to pay this, period, you know. And it wasn't that we couldn't have paid the money, but it just felt like this insult. How dare you, you know? I mean, after all the nice things they'd done, they spent more on the 450 roses in the funeral than this, you know, uniform. So we got back this wonderful letter from, and phone call, from Stephen Wolf's somebody down the line that we'd worked with in administration from United who knew us, apologizing. They sent us a letter of apology. They offered us free rides to Disney World. We know that Anita had taken you to Disney World and that you'd enjoyed it and she'd enjoyed it, and we'd like you to go as our guests. And, you know, apology. That's all we wanted, was the apology. We didn't want to go to Disneyland. We wanted the apology. And Diane Russell got the same letter, closed herself in her bedroom for a day, crying her heart out, didn't do anything about it, didn't get an apology, and didn't get a trip to Disney World, you know. But because we handled it, we felt like, you know, okay, they made a mistake and they apologized, that's it. But those were the only two things that for us were really offensive. Other people were offended that we got a phone call, but we weren't offended because it was handled so well and we needed to know right away. And if somebody knocked at the door, I think that would have been worse. So I thought that was handled really well.
How much was the bill for the uniform?
Doesn't matter. It was over 100 or something, but you know.
It's just the point.
Yeah.